Yay.
I brought my mentor with me. Yes, that's my mentor, the senior Bubby. And good to see everybody. I am going to be live on Facebook tomorrow, and I'm trying to be very clean, so I'll try this out. My grandmother gave me advice, the original Bubby. She said, don't trust anybody with a flat tushy. And you know something? She sort of got that from Shakespeare. For those erudite people like Peter, Shakespeare said, Jan Cassius has a lean and hungry look. Such men are dangerous. In other right, Chuck? In other words, you want nice plump tushies around you because you can trust them. In other words, they can't run fast either. And my Bubby used to tell me, don't tell people what you weigh. They'll be jealous. Because the opposite of poor was fat, at least where I was growing up. That's a little bit of a thought process. So if you're not too drunk, you can get that one. And how many of you, well, I grew up in the cold climate. And if I open the door to go out, my father says, don't let the air out, the hot air out. And I said, oh my God, you know, it's like, don't open the refrigerator, all the coolness will come out. That's the way I grew up, to save on that. And I don't know about the other religions, but in Judaism, the highest form of charity is to give anonymously. Well, my grandmother got that message, but not entirely. She wanted people to know how much she gave, but she wanted it in the highest form. So the rabbi was calling out how much money someone gave. Rockefeller gave $20, and Bill Gates gave $10. Now, remember, this is in the 50s, early 50s, before Al's time, because I'm probably the senior citizen here. And then all of a sudden they say in heavy Yiddish, $50. Anonymous, Mrs. November. Chuck got it, and I don't think he's a member of the tribe. But anyway, that was my grandmother. Yeah. And to live with my grandmother, they had been married for 50 years, but my grandfather spent his entire career working at the U.S. Grand Central Post Office in Nueva York. I think you may have heard of that one. And I once saw him on TV. Do you remember Guy Lombardo and the ball dropping on New Year's Eve? That was before your time, Jared.
I remember it.
But they used to pan in on the square, how many people are at Times Square watching the ball. And I said to my mother, that looks like Zeta, that means grandfather. Look at that. And he's half drunk because he was at the post office and they were drinking bottles of confiscated schnapps, whiskey. And he was staggering home like a drunk, and he was on national TV. As the ball was dropping, there was Jake November staggering home drunk. But that was my grandfather. But he used to make his own wine for Passover. Yeah, we drank wine as kids for ritual wine. I think if you're Catholic, you have wine also for sacraments, right, Al? Or Ronnie, I don't know how many of you were Catholic. And Jesus was a very good Jew. He was good to his mother. But we have wine also all the time. From age 6 on, I was drinking wine. But my grandpa used to make his own wine in the middle of Brooklyn. We had an earthen cellar. And every month he'd go down, he'd squeeze the extra heavy, disgusting sweet Malaga grapes with the cheesecloth and everything. And he'd test it for a whole year between the Passovers. And by the 3rd month, he was staggering up the steps. I said, for God's sake, can somebody help my poor grandfather? He can't walk up the steps. But he made his own wine. It was as thick as Jell-O. Oh, that was my November family. And then I used to go to Sunday school, because even though I'm Jewish, I go to Sunday school when I was a little kid. And I, of course, would have the two little kids behind me. My older sister was off chasing boys, but the little ones were like 8 and 5. And we're at synagogue, and the rabbi's asking some Jewish history questions. Like he asked, who was the first Jewish king? So there's my little baby brother who's now retired, the first colonel in the army. He's raising his hand. He's barely out of diapers. And I said, oh, Lord, please don't call on Stephen. They call on Stephen. And they said, who's the first Jewish king? And he looks around for an audience and he said, George Washington. I was mortified. But now that he's a colonel, okay. Every time I do comedy or I do a workshop on health and humor, I want you all to have PMA. Do you know what that is, Jared? No, it's not dirty like some of you guys with schmutzig minds. It's PMA, positive mental attitude. Remember, the shortest distance between two people, Dennis, is a smile. Right? Right. Not a fart, but a smile. And what else do I want to tell you? That remember, 2024 is coming. I know Nikki Haley threw her name in the hat. Everybody and their uncle and Biden, if he, first of all, Bubby is going to be running. You had an orange president. You had a black president. You have an old white man. Well, you need an old Bubby in the White House. And I'm running on the World Lubrication Party. So vote for me, because Obamacare was great. But you know what? He forgot the hungry and the homeless. Vote for Bubby. And I guarantee you, the hungry will eat the homeless.